morning, everybody. This is Bob Gilligan of the Catholic Conference of Illinois, and thanks so much for listening to our program here this morning on a kind of overcast Monday morning. But hey, the White Sox swept a doubleheader of the Red Sox yesterday, and so it can't be that bad of a Monday. So let's go over the lineup for this morning's program. This morning we have three guests, all very interesting and diverse guests, and we have kicking off the show at leadoff, I guess, to continue the baseball analogy, is Josh Hale. He is the director of Big Shoulders, a program I'm sure many listeners have heard about, and they do wonderful work. And Josh is going to talk to us about what Big Shoulders does, and then a lot about the tax credit scholarship that they're involved with, advocating for its continuation. And then we're going to take a detour at about 20 after the hour. We're going to go talk to Dan Misleh. Dan is the executive director of something called the Catholic Climate Covenant. He's based in Washington, D.C., and it is Earth Day is the 22nd, I believe. Today's 19th, so it's someday this week. Dan's going to talk to us about some of their initiatives they have going on, and also make some comments and reflections about the statement that the Catholic Conference of Illinois put out recently on the environment and caring for God's creation. And then in third place, we will say, not quite up a cleanup hitter, but we'll round up the show with State Representative Tom Morrison. Tom is a state rep. He is from the Palatine area. I think it's District 54. And he's going to talk to us a little about the legislature's attempt to repeal Illinois' parental notification for abortion law. Tom is very involved with advocating for that law to remain, and he'll have some thoughts for us and comments at the end of the show at about 8:40. So without further ado, let's jump right into our discussion with our first guest. His name is Josh Hale. He is, I don't know his title. I think he's just Big Shoulders to me. He's the executive director of Big Shoulders in the Archdiocese of Chicago. And Josh, you're with us. Can you hear me?
I'm with you, Bob. It's good to hear your voice. I've never heard you. I love hearing the radio. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's an all new, different me.
I like it. However, I did notice in the opening, there was one, you mentioned the White Sox sweeping the Red Sox in the doubleheader,
right.
But there was a game on Saturday. I don't know what happened in that one. Did you see that game?
I can't remember. Totally blacked out of that memory. So we'll focus on the positive. And
Boy, they look good, don't they? The White Sox?
Yeah, 500 hanging in there. You know, we're on they kind of bounce back and forth. So a lot of injuries, but I think that there's light at the end of the tunnel here. I think once the weather warms up, I think we'll be in a better place. That's my hope.
I think you're right.
And then the Cubs. We won't talk about the Cubs game yesterday. That was kind of a disaster, train wreck.
Yes.
Oh well, there's always tomorrow, right? Or today.
There's always tomorrow.
No, they have the day off. Yeah, I think the Cubs have the day off, so they'll try again tomorrow. Josh, tell us a little bit about Big Shoulders. What is it? I know people hear about it a lot. They probably see it a lot. But what exactly is it that you do for a living?
As lucky as can be to get to work at Big Shoulders Fund and to work in the great mission of Catholic education. So I count my blessings every day. But Big Shoulders Fund was really created at the leadership of Cardinal Bernardine.
Right.
Who really saw that Catholic education was not only a tremendous mission of the church in terms of us going out, living the gospel, and really providing education to all children, wherever they come from, whatever their background. But also, I think he saw it really as a future of the church, that this is where people come in and are formed in the faith, and long-term, study after study shows that really lead to more people being active in their faith in the future.
Yeah.
And so he knew that he was trying to figure out a way to finance it. And so he went to a number of business and civic leaders. Really at that time, went to Jim O'Connor, Annie McCaddy, Barry Sullivan, Ed Steffen, and asked them about raising, a $100 million fund, which, that's a lot today, never mind back in the early 80s. And so they studied it for a little while, and ultimately they started raising funds and created the Big Shoulders Fund as an independent charitable organization to collect those funds for the inner city Catholic schools and really to help finance them. That canon law provides that parishes are supposed to provide 20% of the funding for the school. And, and if you're in an under-resourced parish, that's impossible. And so that was kind of the start of it. And at first we did a lot of scholarships and we did some capital work and other sports. Over time, we've evolved quite a bit. And, as the world changes, as dioceses change, as parishes have changed and shifted, without going through all the history, today we still do scholarships. We have, on average, every year, anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 children on direct scholarship from Big Shoulders Fund.
Wow.
There's a lot of enrichment that goes to that, so test prep, transitions from elementary school to high school to college, trips to a camp we run in Wyoming, a STEM and leadership camp, after-school programming, lots of different mentoring, tutoring, lots of things around those students. But big part of our program is still scholarships. The other part is really we've gotten into the operational side of the school as well. So we have a whole team of finance and marketing types that work with everything from helping them with marketing to really running their social media and outreach and developing plans and implementing. And then the finance side, really helping with long-term planning, budgeting, and helping them to run the business of the school. And then we have a team that's really focused on academics. So we have, people really going into the classroom, working with teachers to help them think about how do we make this your classroom even more impactful. And so working with the teacher and the principal of the school, everything from the top for the principal, creating data teams to look at the data they get on their students, and how to turn that into information, and bring high-quality curriculum and coaching in to work specifically with teachers. And we really try to create, which I think is one of the greatest things about these Catholic schools, is the network effect. That while each Catholic school is independent and folks in their community, that they share so many values. And so how do we connect the fifth-grade teachers at 5 schools to provide support for each other? And so we fund that as well, personal learning communities, that they really benefit from sharing, just like any of us do in professional circles. Yep. And then the final area we work in is all about leadership. So how do we develop a leadership pipeline? And fast forward to the answer, we recruit people out of college into our schools to be teachers. And then we have a 3-year support program that when teachers come in, we chose tremendously improve retention of teachers, high-quality teachers in the first 3 years where you have a high turnover typically. And then we have a pipeline that leads to teacher leaders in specific subject matter areas, science, math. And then we also have a residency program for assistant principals. So Bob is a high, performing principal. Josh wants to be a principal. I would get an assistant principalship for a year or 2 working with Bob, and so I learn about the craft and develop skill. And then we have our Sullivan Fellows principal program is really about retaining our top-performing principals. So based on 5 KPIs, we look across all of our schools, and those principals are pulled into kind of a YPO-like forum where they get a lot of professional support, but also they get financial incentives to stay in the schools. And so we're able to retain not only the great leaders, but allowing young leaders to work underneath them, to learn from them, and then we have a stronger pipeline.
It's amazing. Like, you're just rattling off all these things. I mean, I knew this, but I didn't know some of this. Everybody thinks of Big Shoulders as the scholarships because that's what you've known. That's kind of the marquee of Big Shoulders. But you guys do a lot more than that, and that's really refreshing to hear. And I know that Catholic education is so important in the inner city, and especially it's getting harder and harder to maintain those schools. And like you said, how do you retain good professionals? How do you pay them well? How do you make sure that they keep coming back? And it's really gratifying to hear all of the things that Big Shoulders does beyond the scholarships. This is all in addition to the scholarships you could provide. And what do you say, between 4,000 to 6,000 a year? That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's great. That's fantastic.
A lot of kids.
That's a lot of
benefit.
kids.
And the great thing is that I think if you look at the numbers here, relative to the rest of the country, our school system. Writ large, Catholic education in Chicago has been pretty stable.
Yep, it has.
In the inner city, ours have been unbelievably stable over a period of time.
Yep.
And I think that gives confidence for parents as well.
I think you're right, because I think you look at like other major metropolitan areas like Boston and New York, and those closer schools, those cities are experiencing significant closure of Catholic schools. And look, we are too, but it's not at the same rate. And a lot of it's got to do with Big Shoulders. That's fantastic. Josh, let's talk a little bit. We have about 10 minutes. Let's talk a little bit about what we've been working on, which is the tax credit scholarship program. Some people know Empower, which is a scholarship granting organization that is statewide throughout the entire state. But Big Shoulders is as well. And you have a SGO, a scholarship granting organization component of Big Shoulders as well. And so you've been involved with this state program as well. Tell us a little bit about your experience with it and money raised and the scholarships that have gone out.
What a tremendous program an opportunity for, I really think for, in a couple different categories, certainly for children and families, that, finding the right school for your child is paramount. If we've learned anything over that, we need strong public schools, but also in public districts, they've created more choice in those systems. And I think the same thing across other schools, whether it's Lutheran or Catholic or other private schools, that, you have multiple children. Children are different, and they have different needs and may fit in different places. And if you have the resources to make that decision, that's wonderful that you're able to make that choice for your child to get them the very best school and community for your child. And if you don't have the resources and the school down the street isn't the right place for one of your children or all of your children, that's a really tough predicament. And as any parent, you would carry a heavy load on your shoulders that you couldn't provide that for your child. And I think what the tax credit scholarship has done is enabled parents and children to find the very best school for them. And I think that the number of students who are applying each year and the growth of that over time as word spreads speaks volumes about what parents are looking for. And as we want to find reasons for keeping people in Chicago, keeping people in Illinois, education is the number one reason. That's why parents decide to stay in a particular area, education. And I think the scholarship program, the Illinois Tax Credit Scholarship Program, is just, the start of that, of how do we add more capacity and support for families, and another reason to stay in our great state and our great city.
So if people don't know, the way the Illinois Tax Credit Scholarship Program that Josh is referring to, the way it works is that if an individual donates to a scholarship granting organization like Big Shoulders through the scholarship tax credit, they can get a 75% credit on their state income taxes. So hypothetically, if you gave $1,000 to Big Shoulders and you took the tax credit, you would get $750 back when you file your taxes the next year. That $1,000 that you have donated then goes to fund a scholarship for a low to middle income child. And in Big Shoulders cases, that money will stay within the city of Chicago. Will stay downtown Chicago. As Josh indicated, in most of those schools are, quite frankly, where they need it, the most, because the costs are so high, and we are financing education for a lot of kids who they just can't afford it right now. And so that's one of the most valuable things about that scholarship tax credit program. So, Josh, tell us a little bit. So it looks like the legislature, it's April, what is today, the 19th? The legislature is going to conclude May 31st. And so we're in the process of trying to advocate to as many people who will listen to us that program needs to continue, because I think, as you're saying, that there's a sunset date on that program, and we need to make sure that it continues beyond next year.
Yeah, it's amazing thinking back to when the program first went in, and they said, with this great new program, there's a sunset, and I learned Illinois politics very quickly, what the sunset means. And, great to have the program. Imagine if you have children across the state in Chicago and under-resourced communities that have gotten this dream opportunity and this great possibility for the right place for their child, the right place for their family, and then all of a sudden the program ceases to exist. What a loss for those children, those communities. And so we are working with the coalition. Bob, this is all new to me. Learning how this all works. And I think at the end of the day, certainly there's a lot of people that know a lot more about working downstate and all the politics. But I think the simplicity of this is that this program helps children. It helps families from under-resourced communities and helps parents and guardians who want the very best for their child. And anybody with children knows that dream. And if the best option down the street is your public school, that's fantastic. But if it's not, how do we make sure that we get them to the right place?
Exactly.
And this program has enabled that. And again, as we look across the city and the state, and children most impacted by COVID, I think yet again these very scholarships are going to those children, those communities, and we need to figure out a way to say that this program is about a brighter future. It's about opportunity. It's about another reason to stay in the city or in the state.
The just in terms of an FYI, one of the things I have to do today is finalize a letter that it's pretty much final, that will go out from the 6 Catholic diocesan bishops to people all across the state. It'll go into hopefully the Catholic parishes will pick it up. And it's a letter just explaining what Josh and I are talking about the scholarship tax credit being kind of under attack, that the governor has made a recommendation to reduce that percentage credit from 75 to 40. And what Josh and I are talking about here is our advocacy efforts to not only restore that credit from 40 to 75% so people will continue giving at the level they have, but also to extend it beyond the sunset that Josh has just outlined. And so that letter will be finalized hopefully today, tomorrow. It'll go out sometime this week, so people will start seeing it in parish bulletins and hopefully in the secular press fairly soon. And what the letter does is it just urges people, all people, Catholic, not Catholic, whatever, that the program is good in terms of it helps to provide financing to send children to a school of their parents' choice. And so we want to continue that program as best we can. In the couple minutes we have left, Josh, I think one of the things you talked about, and I don't think we can underscore this enough, and I get this question actually a lot, is like, how come we don't hear more about Catholic schools being able to be open during a worldwide pandemic, continuing to educate kids, continuing to provide a safe environment for kids? And it just seems like everybody sort of takes that for granted, and it's not really publicized much. It's just kind of what we do. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but it's one of those points that I think does get lost. And I'm not sure what we can do because we're kind of tooting our own horn. But on the other hand, it is a little frustrating that it doesn't get out there more often.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's I got to tell you, these schools, these principals, these teachers have been heroic. Yeah. And I have been out in a lot of these schools, a lot, and I am amazed. In fact, we have a biannual dinner for Big Shoals Fund where we give the Joseph Cardinal Bernardine Humanitarian Award, and it's always given to someone who's really made an impact in our mission. And this year we're giving it to the teachers, the principals,
sure,
the janitors, all those. And how could you honor anybody else? And I think, to your point, I want to yell from mountaintop, like, oh my goodness, look what they have done at a time of tremendous need for children. They, like firemen and women running into, a burning building. They're running into this issue. And I think just as we saw healthcare workers and people working in grocery stores and people working in, all those frontline jobs, our teachers and principals went right in there for children.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that, if you looked at every Catholic school, the archdiocese, each one did a little bit different. They figured out a way to make it work, accommodating for teachers, accommodating for student needs. It really has been remarkable. And, they certainly don't say anything about it as good Catholics. They just kind of marshal on. And I try to tell everybody, I couldn't be more, I think in our support base, we had some of our highest numbers of fundraising or support ever.
Really?
In periods of time. People just wanted to, what more can I do? These people,
right.
We gave gift cards to every single staff member in schools. We bought lunch, just kept sending up more things and supports. And I think we've only started. I think as we look back and continue moving through COVID, I think there's going to be even more outreach and support for these heroic leaders. When we look back at what they did at a time of great need, with very little fanfare and very little, desire for a spotlight on them, just marshaled on. And I think that is one of the greatest gifts that they could give to those communities and those children, but also to all of us, to inspire and remind us, what it means to be in community and work together. And I also, one of the things I would say is that, we always talk about Catholic schools and communities as being beacons of hope, as being really community-based organizations. And I think when I think about community-based organization, it's a place where community comes together. They always talk about, where did some of the greatest movements in our history start? In the basement of a church.
Right.
Right. Community-based organizations are where people come together to learn, to solve issues, to resolve issues, to, whatever it is. And during the pandemic, one of the things that, it got started, actually, in some ways, someone came to us, a woman who's been a longtime supporter of Big Shoals Fund, called me up on a Sunday, just as we shut down the school building, and said, my goodness, people are going to be hungry. People are losing their jobs, food insecurity. She said, I want to figure out how to get food out to people quickly. She said, I'm coming to you first. I don't know if you do this, but, you guys seem to be connected to the community.
Yeah.
And this is from a woman who isn't Catholic and didn't, know as much about the history, but said, I understand what your schools mean in community. And so we quickly started up. We reached out to schools and said, what do you guys think about this? We're going to partner with local restaurants. We're going to get food and distribute it through your school to anybody that needs it. And, not surprising to you, Bob, and most of the listeners, everyone in Princeton is like, oh, my goodness, yes, what can we do? How can we help?
They just do it. Right.
And so next thing you knew, we had, over the time of COVID, we partnered with, 30, 40 community-based restaurants, mom and pops in the neighborhood. They made food, and we gave out hundreds of thousands of meals to those facing food insecurity. And that was all through the school relationships. And then built onto that was like, how do we give out clothes? How do we give out PPP? How do we figure out social emotional supports, connecting them to counseling? It just built. And all of a sudden I said, that is why they're called Beacons of Hope. That's why they are these unbelievable community-based organizations that certainly represent education, a quality Catholic education, but even more so, they represent hope in a community, a place where people come together and trust and work together. And I think that is, why we fight so hard for these schools.
That's
but
right.
Also, these tax credit scholarships in all of our work really continues to add value in the most under-resourced and challenged communities at any time, but certainly during COVID. And the idea that anybody could not support the tax credit scholarship program at times in communities that have been devastated by this pandemic is almost unconscionable. So I really do have great hope, because I know that the legislature is going to see that this is a critically important issue, and we'll fight for it just as we are, for children and for communities.
If people want to find out more about Big Shoulders, what's the best way to do that?
BigShouldersFund.org is our website, and we feel free to call or email us. We'd love to have people. We have lots of volunteering opportunities, mentoring, tutoring, teaching our stock market program, so many different ways to get involved, service days, and we'd love to have anybody's support for this great mission.
BigShoulders.org, right?
That's it.
Great. Josh, thanks for taking some time to join us this morning. Really good interview. Thanks so much for the information, and we'll keep plugging away on that tax credit scholarship.
Likewise, Bob. Thanks so much.
We're
watching that White Sox-Red Sox game at 10:10 today.
That's right. Exactly. It's Patriots Day. Thanks, Josh.
Bye.
Take care. Josh Hale, everybody, from Big Shoulders. Thank him for joining us this morning. Don't go away. We're right back. We're going to talk to Dan Misleh. He is with the Catholic Climate Covenant. It's hard for me to get that out. It is 8:23. We'll be right back after these messages.
Mothers are often the unsung heroes in a family. Right now, many mothers are also the disproportionate victims of the COVID-19 pandemic. They've experienced higher rates of infection and more job losses. They've had to navigate their children learning remotely while caring for older relatives and struggling to put food on the table. What better way to honor the mothers in our lives, those living and deceased, than with a contribution in your mother's name to Catholic Charities' 2021 Mother's Day Appeal? Our mothers were the first to teach us about compassion and community. They were the first to show us what love and caring for someone else is all about. Help us help local moms and children who are struggling this year. Please give generously at CatholicCharities.net.
Hey, it's Timothy Johnston here from Liturgy Training Publications. Over the past few months, I'm sure you've found yourself at home more, whether it's working from home or watching live stream masses on Sunday mornings. As we began adjusting to this at the beginning of the pandemic, one of the things I missed the most was gathering with friends at the parish. That's why we at LTP have created this new virtual gathering series called Living the Sunday Word. We meet virtually on Thursday evenings each week and reflect on the upcoming Sunday readings. And with that, we share stories to help us more fully reflect on the Word of God. I'm inviting each of you to join us, a group of friends meeting virtually from all parts of the country. So visit ltp.org for more information and to register. You won't want to miss this.
Caring adults make all the difference in the lives of adolescents. Catholic Charities understands this, and our mentorship program provides a free opportunity for youth living in Lake County to spend time, virtually, with volunteers who genuinely care about them. This program is ideal for youths age 9 to 12 who may need support navigating the challenges of childhood and early adolescence. Our amazing volunteers serve as friends and role models who help youth recognize their strengths and empower them to reach their full potential. Catholic Charities conducts a thorough background check on every volunteer, and our program coordinator closely monitors and supports each relationship. Mentoring is a fun after-school program that is totally different from remote learning. Virtual group sessions help youth enjoy fun activities with their peers, too. We're connecting youth with great role models. Join us today. To learn more, call 312-937-3375. That's 312-937-3375.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Bob Gilligan of the Catholic Conference of Illinois, and thanks for listening to our program this morning on the 19th of April. Or we're getting there, 19th of April. Time is flying by. Thanks for joining us this morning on WNDZ, 750 AM. And with us now, we're going to switch gears. We're going to go from Illinois here, an Illinois issue on the tax credit scholarship, and we're going to go to a international issue. And we are lucky enough to be joined by Dan Misleh. He is the executive director, I believe that's his title, of the Catholic Climate Covenant. Dan, are you with us?
I am. Good morning, Bob. How are you?
Good morning. It's good to talk with you again. It's been a little while, but we're still plugging away, and I know you are as well. Dan, tell us a little bit about what the Catholic Climate Covenant is to start.
Sure. Yeah. So we are a national organization, as you said, working with about 20 different national Catholic partners, including the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. And our role is to try to help the Catholic community in the United States understand the issue of climate change and act on that issue from the perspective of our faith and using Catholic social teaching as our guide.
And tell us a little bit about what you guys have been up to lately. I know there's an interesting program. I'm not sure if you've just started it or you're rolling it out, but it has to do with trying to get mobilizing some young adults.
Yeah, we just started a youth and young adult mobilization program run by a woman named Anna Robertson. She's based in Seattle, Washington. We're in the very early phases of that, but basically we want to try to capture the enthusiasm of young people on the issue of environmental justice and climate change and remind them that the Catholic community has a lot to say about that, and then to help empower them to act consistent with our teaching and our faith.
It seems to me like there's a lot of energy or interest, especially upon, I'm going to draw the line at about 30s or so, with people, and not that there isn't for people older than 30, but it seems like younger people have more of a connection to environmental issues than perhaps some older individuals. And I'm not sure why that's the case, but that's my sense. Do you think that's the case, or am I misreading it?
No, I think that's true. I think young people are looking at their future, and they're very, very concerned about their future. I think they see that older generations, and Bob, I know you and I are just a bit over 30.
I'm just over. I don't know about you.
Just a few years.
Yeah,
but,
give or take.
But I think they look at older generations and realize that maybe we haven't done our job as well as we should, although there are a lot of people over 30 who are very engaged in this issue.
Sure.
But I think the young looking at their future and they're very concerned about it, and I think there's sort of a natural inclination for them to want to work on this issue because of they're looking at their families, their small families, their young children, or even before they even have a partner and have children. So, I think so.
I think this is one of those issues, too, where there's a micro and a macro here, and perhaps in a way that there isn't on maybe some other issues that we deal with in a church perspective. And what I mean by that is that yes, there are public policies that we will engage in or we will try to oppose as any other issue. But there's also a micro issue in terms of like our individual actions also contribute to solutions here. The way we lead our lives, specifically, our habits, what we do and what we don't do in terms of just little things like recycling. Can we do smaller things that around our homes that would enable the carbon footprint to be reduced a little bit, and just like little things. I'm sure you're familiar with the Minnesota Catholic Conference. They put out kind of some extensive recommendations a couple of years ago and just observations, and I thought some of those things were very helpful to people, and I don't know if we've pushed those as much as we should have or we could have, and I just wonder if you have any comments on, because with Earth Day coming up, I think this is kind of on people's minds, and sometimes I think we can get a little ahead of ourselves in trying to change the world, which we should always try to do. But sometimes just taking the next right step as an individual is very helpful as well.
Yeah, I certainly would agree with that, Bob. I think each of us has a role to play, and it really comes down to how do we view our place on the earth. Are we are we just individual islands and we can do whatever in the heck we want?
Yep.
Or is this are we co-creators? Are we caretakers with God of this abundant but yet finite planet? So anything that we can do to reduce our energy use, to make every decision that we make about what we eat, what we consume, how we heat and cool our home, how we get about the city or the countryside, all of those things have enormous consequences. And if we can all do those things together, reduce our energy use particularly, it can make a huge impact. And so I think we have to be attentive on a daily basis to, how much we are consuming.
Does the Catholic Climate Covenant, are there some specific recommendations that people can access on your website? Do you put out things like that about how, because I think a lot of this is about individual behavior.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I would just encourage people to go to CatholicClimateCovenant.org, CatholicClimateCovenant.org, and then look under the resources tab, and there's just a whole slew of things that we have posted there. Everything from what you can do in your individual lives, in your home, in your workplace, to how you can do this in your parish and in your diocese or archdiocese. All of these things are posted on our website. We certainly encourage, for example, the formation of parish creation care teams, so a parish can get a few folks together to try to help the parish become a little greener. Anyway, just a whole slew of recommendations and tools and techniques that are posted on our website, so I hope people will go there.
Yeah, I know some parishes here in the Archdiocese and throughout the entire state have been engaged in some of those, and some parishes are really doing some pretty innovative and creative ideas, not only in their individual habits in their individual lives, but also in terms of just the church, creating more green spaces in the actual physical property of the church, and looking at how they are, and it's hard for some parishes to do this, but how they heat their buildings. Are there things they could do in terms of energy efficiency with windows and every little thing like that? And some of them have been kind of quite creative about that, and all that stuff sort of, I think, has a cumulative effect and helps us. So, Dan, what are the basic challenges then that you're dealing with at the macro level in terms of legislation?
Well, I think there's a lot that's about to happen even this week with the Biden administration in terms of what their goals are going to be for reducing greenhouse gases, and this infrastructure bill has a lot of environmental pieces to it. I know President Biden is also hosting a bit of a summit, begins tomorrow, I believe, ahead of Earth Day. He's got 40 world leaders coming together to try to get the United States re-engaged in the Paris Agreement that was passed back in 2015, and United States to a certain percentage of reductions of greenhouse gases by 2030. So, there's legislation that's coming out, on climate change. So there's lots of things that are happening right now and will happen this spring on kind of national legislative issues.
And I know here in Illinois we're doing the same kind of thing. There is a Clean Energy Jobs Act that was this is really the year 2 or 3 for it, which has been introduced in Springfield, and it's now going through some iterations and changes and amendments. And I do think something will come out of that. Specifically, what I do not know. There's a lot of moving pieces right now with the trade unions becoming engaged with trying to preserve some of the jobs that are at some of the nuclear facilities here in Illinois that are aging and always in danger of being closed. So there's a lot of machinations going on behind the scenes between labor, the environmentalist groups, lawmakers, et cetera. And about, what was that? I can't even remember. These things all blur into one. But the Catholic Conference has put out a statement on that particular bill per se. It's not really on the bill. It's sort of more of a macro sense. And this is one of the things when we've talked about this at our board meetings quite a number of times. And it's interesting when you get into this topic, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts as well. As I think the bishops per se are more comfortable talking about this issue in terms of principles to look forward. And I think once they sometimes, because these things are complex, at least in Illinois, our bishops kind of glaze over once you get into the details, because they are quite complicated and intricate, and they do have impacts on other areas of law and life. And so our statement was put out, and I think it's a good place for us to be today in terms of where we are with principles. And I wonder if you've seen it or if you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, I have seen it. I thought it
Great.
was just an excellent statement, and I think the Illinois bishops are hitting all the right notes. They talked about being any legislation of this sort, any legislation at all, whether it has to do with the environment or anything else, has to be guided by principles of Catholic social teaching. And the first of that is, does it protect life and promote human dignity? And then everything follows from that. So, and then obviously there's a lot of pieces in that statement that talk about making sure that we're not adding to the burdens of low-income communities and poor families. So I think all of those, I think I was just super excited about the statement, and I remember when it came out last fall and thought that, boy, this is really helpful as you, Bob Gilligan, and your staff, absorb the principles, but then try to apply those to specific pieces of legislation. And I think that's our job, is to say, does this meet these principles? Do these specific pieces of legislation meet these these moral standards that the bishops have laid out for us? And I think that's often a difficult job, but a very important one.
It is a difficult job, and it's interesting because since you were on the Bishops' Conference staff, so you'll remember these days, but you go through these iterations, and you're just like, sometimes you just feel like you're like, okay, give me like a sign. I mean, does it start with an A? Because it is hard to write these things that you have to buy off on a number of different people, and so you go too far, you get squished. You get squished. So you gotta go back and forth. And so we sort of started like, okay, well, where can we agree? Let's start there and sort of build on that. And then the rest of it, we kind of went to, like, as you said, the overarching principle, which is always that's the area that we're most comfortable in. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We have some days coming up where there's going to be lobby days and things like that, and we do have some people that are very engaged in this issue. It's been interesting to watch it sort of grow and mature. It's not quite there yet in terms of where I think we would like it to be, but it is growing, and I think that's the right thing. And I think our voice is one where I think we can maintain our principles on this and not get sort of co-opted by the esoteric details that go into legislation. And that's probably a sweet spot for us. And I think as long as we can set those guiding principles and hopefully lawmakers will move towards achieving them, is probably the best place for us to be, at least on this issue in the year 2021.
Yeah, no, I think it is a big challenge, and it would be great to have bills where it's just a straight thumbs up or thumbs down.
Right.
And there are pieces of legislation out there that like that, but these things are very, very complicated. So we have to kind of go for the best thing that we can get, and hope that we can. If it's not the best thing, then
Yep.
fix it.
Exactly.
Yep.
So what's on the docket for Catholic Climate Covenant in the short term?
Oh my gosh, we're so busy.
Yeah, because you're a very, very small staff.
Yeah, we are, but we're growing, and that's good.
Good.
We have there's lots happening. We have this second of 3 Laudato Si and the U.S. Conferences that we do with Creighton University.
Right.
That's coming up in
I
July.
saw that.
Yeah, it's basically trying to integrate Laudato Si into all of the different ministries of the Catholic Church. So that's coming up. We're also the hub. Our organization is the hub for this Vatican effort on sustainability. There will be a sort of a soft launch in May on the 6th anniversary of Laudato Si, and then a harder launch of that initiative in October around the Feast of St. Francis. So we're very much engaged with the Vatican on that and trying to help everything from parishes to universities to whole dioceses to commit to a 7-year sustainability plan. And that's happening globally, but we are the kind of the hub of activity for that in the United States. And then just the day-to-day stuff that we do, offering webinars and educational programs like our Earth Day program that we have posted on our website and people can sign up for. So we're super busy. We love our work. We feel the sense of urgency to have the moral voice in the public square on these issues, and so we're pretty busy, but all good.
Great. Dan, tell us where people can find out more information about the Catholic Climate Covenant.
Sure. Our website is CatholicClimateCovenant.org. We have a second website, and something that I'm sure we don't have time to talk about, but I'll just point to it, which is CatholicEnergies.org. It's a way to help Catholic parishes and schools and dioceses adopt solar and energy efficiency projects that we all pay for. So CatholicEnergies.org or CatholicClimateCovenant.org.
Dan, thanks for taking some time this morning. Good to talk to you again, and best of luck as you go forward.
Great. Thanks so much for having me,
Great.
Bob.
Dan, thank you.
Yep.
Dan Misleh from Catholic Climate Covenant. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Representative Tom Morrison is going to be on the air talking about our efforts to retain the parental notification for abortion law. We'll be right back.
Catholic Charities staff members work every day to end poverty and homelessness. We do this on a one-to-one basis with anyone who asks for help. We also work with organizations who study these issues across our city, state, and nation. The Wilson Sheehan Lab for Economic Opportunities, or LEO, at the University of Notre Dame is one of these research centers. Through our partnership with LEO, Catholic Charities has gained valuable insights into scientific evaluation methods that determine the most effective interventions to help people avoid poverty and homelessness. Along with our experience and compassion, trusted research is helping Catholic Charities offer hope and so much more to anyone in need. For more information, visit CatholicCharities.net.
Hello, I'm Cardinal Blaise Supich. I got my COVID-19 vaccination, and you should too. It took just a few seconds and was painless. The Food and Drug Administration determined the new vaccines are safe and effective, and the Holy See, as well as the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, has concluded getting the COVID-19 vaccine is an act of love of our neighbor and part of our moral responsibility for the common good. We have lived with the pandemic for many months, and I know we're all getting tired of it. Vaccination is one of the most important ways you can protect your health and the lives of those you love and help bring the pandemic under control. When it is your turn, I urge you to be vaccinated. And remember to do your part by wearing a mask, washing your hands, and watching your distance. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Bob Gilligan of the Catholic Conference of Illinois, and thanks for listening to our show here this morning. Very interesting guest so far, and the most interesting, well, I shouldn't say that. Another interesting guest is Tom Morrison. He is a state representative. He is from District 54, if I remember the number correctly, and that is in the Palatine area. Tom, are you with us?
Yeah, Bob, thanks for having me.
Representative Morrison, it's good to hear your voice again. So we'll talk a little bit about this. I mean, it's just, I don't know. So every once in a while, I just kind of shake my head. Well, I shake my head a lot. So there's an attempt, we've talked about this on this program before, to repeal the Illinois Parental Notification of Abortion law. It's been on the books since, 2013, something like that?
Yeah, it was originally passed in 1995.
Right.
And then there were legal challenges until 2013 when the Supreme Court said, no, it is perfectly justifiable for the state to regulate this.
I'm going to try to switch this around a little bit. Maybe it can help some listeners frame arguments, because I think people know the arguments on our side. I mean, this is not that complicated. Representative Morrison, what is the arguments being used for repealing parental notification of abortion? Because I'm a little mixed up about that. I don't quite understand their arguments. Maybe you do.
Well, I mean, one adjective that they've used again and again is dangerous. They're calling this a dangerous law. They're saying that, look, there are families that can discuss these issues with their teens, but for those that can't, we need to make sure that
Right.
access to abortion is just unfettered.
Yeah, and the law takes that into account, which is they have a judicial bypass.
It does, yes.
So, yeah.
Judicial, yeah, maybe we should explain that. So if there is a teen who does not feel safe talking, about her pregnancy with her parents or a parent, or actually any adult. I mean, the way the law is written, it's pretty lax.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Any adult family member.
Right.
It could be an uncle. It could be an aunt.
Right.
But the purpose of the law is to make sure that that child is protected. Well, there are a variety of reasons why, it's just good public policy to have this. But we're talking in many cases about a surgical procedure.
Right.
And I remember when I had my son's tonsils taken out, I had page after page of, potential complications that could happen with a tonsillectomy.
Right. Nobody thinks twice of that. Right.
No, right, exactly. I mean, what if there was some kind of complication? We know that this happens. We know that there are adults who have had complications from abortion. Some have died. Some have been permanently injured. And so if a girl is getting the surgical procedure done and nobody knows about it, no adult in her family knows about it, it could cause her death. It could cause, just some kind of serious complication from infection to, all kinds of things. So in addition to just the fact that this is a very, very serious procedure, we don't let teens get tattoos. We don't let them get their ears pierced. We don't let them take other medication without parental involvement. And this is just common sense, good public policy. And the polls show it, too. The polls show that the majority of Illinoisans think that this is good law, good public policy. But the other side is trying to paint it as dangerous because there are some girls who would not feel safe bringing this up. And for those limited cases where that might be the case, the ACLU and maybe other groups will provide pro bono legal counsel to these girls to go before a judge, and then the judge would approve it.
Yeah.
And then again, still, those other potential calamities are not. There still is not an adult in that girl's family that would know about it, but she's still getting the procedure.
Yeah, I think you touched on this, and I think it's important to keep hammering this point home, is that what it does is to every parent who wants to be or thinks themselves to be responsible parents, and I think 99% of parents would, I think, aspire to be in that category, if not actually in that category. So if this bill passes, your rights are taken away, and those rights then are transferred to, well, a bunch of teenagers who don't want to tell their parents. And this is a zero-sum game. There's going to be, if this law is repealed, there are winners and losers. And the losers are parents who think the law should support their right to know what's going on in their child's life. They're the losers, which I think is, nearly all parents? I mean, we'd all think that just everybody would want to be in that category. And then, if you will, the winners are going to be, well, some teenagers who don't want to tell their kids, their parents, what they're doing with a very, as you indicated, significant surgical procedure. Or, okay, if it's not a surgery, you're taking drugs. I mean, and these drugs are very powerful drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So it just boggles my mind why we're even talking about this. We've looked into this, and I know the answer if you don't know it, but can you think of any other state that's contemplating doing this? There are none.
So there are apparently, I think there's 33, 34, 35, 35 other states require some other kind of parental notification.
Correct. Consent or notification. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I don't know any of them that are going the other way, though. I think most states are contemplating putting notification or consent laws into place. They're not repealing laws.
Look at so in recent years in Springfield, we have regulated tobacco usage. We've increased the age of for tobacco usage.
21. 21.
Right. So the arguments on the floor were, look, these young people, they don't understand the risks that they're taking when they're doing this, and so we need to increase the age. Okay, so the same argument applies for this procedure as well. Now, another thing that I've heard proponents say is, well, these teens are old enough to decide if they want to keep the child, so they should be old enough to decide that they don't want to. And I don't know if you've heard that.
Yes, I have.
Very much. But,
yes, I have.
But,
heard that a lot. Mm-hmm.
And again, the issue is does the government have a role? Do families have a role in helping young people through this? Because the other side, at the same time, I don't know if you talked about this on your show, but they're pushing really, really hard for a couple of sex ed bills.
The reach back, sure. Mm-hmm.
And so what in a worst case scenario, those bills pass that, pushing really, really graphic sex ed curriculum at lower and lower ages that includes the topic of abortion.
Yep, it does.
And right. And then at the same time, if something like this were to pass, the repeal of a girl's family members at least knowing that this is happening. Now, again, they can't stop it, but someone in that family, an adult, needs to at least know that this is going on. So in a worst-case scenario, this girl is having sex, and gets pregnant and then goes and gets an abortion, and adults in that family never even know about it. And so think about this scenario. If that girl is dating or is being abused by an adult male, and when I mean adult, I'm not necessarily saying someone who's significantly older, but it is a statutory rape situation.
Right. That's right. The age of consent in Illinois is 17. That's right.
Right. So if that girl is going in to get an abortion, that abuse may continue without anyone in her family even knowing about it.
I'm sure you saw the video of Brooke Bello, who is a person who's speaking out about this and who was trafficked as a minor. And since that video, we've since talked to other individuals who have been trafficked as young girls, and they will tell you that they wish that there was some sort of notification or consent law in place, because perhaps it would have alerted somebody, a parent, a law enforcement person, to stop the abuse. And,
Right.
And that's where those who are arguing for repeal of parental notification, that's what they're arguing for. That just makes no sense to anybody. Representative Morrison, we have about 2-3 minutes left. So here we are. It's April 19th. This bill has not moved out of a committee. What's going on?
Yeah, well, it did move from what's called the Rules Committee. That's sort of like the first step in a bill moving forward. From then, it was assigned to Human Services, and then it just did not get sufficient support in Human Services. So it was sent back to the Rules Committee. Now, that doesn't mean that it's dead, and I really, really want to encourage your listeners to stay vigilant, continue to contact their state lawmakers, because what we saw 2 years ago was there was a similarly, pretty extreme bill allowing for late-term abortions, and because of the pushback, that bill stalled.
Yep.
But at the 11th hour, the proverbial 11th hour, basically over Memorial Day weekend, when everybody is enjoying their family time and barbecuing and all that kind of stuff,
I'll never forget.
They brought that bill back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, at 9 p.m. on a Sunday night before Memorial Day.
Right. I remember that.
And they pushed it through, and then it passed the Senate really just minutes before the May 31st deadline. So they passed it like 11:30 at night on a Friday night.
I remember that.
So please stay vigilant. Call your lawmaker. Get an answer. Don't just have an assistant say, "Okay, well, we'll note your opposition." I mean, try to get that lawmaker on the phone and get a verbal or a written commitment that they will not support this.
That's a very good suggestion. I think people are calling. They're doing what they can. I think they're getting a little tired now because it's been going on for, 6 weeks, 8 weeks or so. But I think you're right. It's time to double down our advocacy efforts and not let them fade away. Get the lawmaker on the phone if you can. Get a commitment, as Representative Morrison indicated. Hear what they say and keep their commitment. If they say they're going to vote against it, make sure they do so. Because we saw with the RHA 2 years ago, we saw a couple lawmakers who had committed to voting no, who changed their opinion, and that's how it passed.
Yeah.
So I think you're right.
Well, the other side, they kept calling, and the same thing with HB 40 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was the taxpayer funding for abortion bill that became law. We had some initial wins stopping it, and then the other side, they just did not let up. They continued to make their calls. So
we need fighters. We need people who are going to be vigilant. Representative Morrison, you are one of them. You're probably the head of the class, and thank you so much for what you do. I know you're always fighting to preserve and defend human life from conception to natural death, and everybody is very supportive of your efforts. So thank you for doing that, and I think we should advise all listeners to do the same. Be as strong as Representative Morrison and keep calling and get those lawmakers on the phone, because we have to stop this. The bill number is House Bill 1797 or Senate Bill 2190. Those numbers could change. If they do, we'll keep you updated on that. We'll let you know. And so for now, Representative Morrison, thanks so much for taking some time to join us.
Thank you.
Take care. This is Bob Gilligan of the Catholic Conference. Thanks for listening. Good guests this morning, Josh Hale, Dan Misleh, and Representative Todd Morrison. We'll be back on the third week in the month of May. Have a good day, everybody.